On February 8th, District 11's Board of Education expressed wanting to implement a new policy restricting teachers and staff from asking for students' pronouns. We spoke to members of District 11's community who held a call to action rally during the March 8th Board of Education meeting about the possible policy change and the impact it would have on student-teacher relationships. A counter protest was being held by Advocates for D20 and Moms for Liberty, but they declined to comment on this issue.
Proposed policy would be to restrict teachers' ability to ask students about their pronouns in classes. There are other measures to restrict equity for students, especially when it pertains to queer and trans rights in the classroom.
It's going to impact teachers' ability to first acknowledge and respect their students and to be able to save lives.
So what we know is that referring to a young person by their pronouns and chosen name can reduce the risk of suicide by 56%. We know that using pronouns and chosen name can improve mental health, improve school outcomes, and we also know that young people may not always feel comfortable just telling a teacher. Sometimes they need to be asked the question.
I think that a policy change in District 11 could impact other boards of education's look at their own policy and consider whether or not they want to have a decision around how teachers want to be able to relate to their students and if they have the option of asking their students.
I think apart from being morally repugnant, it will ultimately be illegal. Colorado is one of several states to have specific enumerated policies protecting students from discrimination on the basis of both sexual orientation and gender identity. And transness is a protected class in Colorado.
What this is basically, it's igniting a fire of hate and suppression. And like most uncontrolled fires, it will spread. So what we're doing here today is we're extinguishing that fire and making sure that people are protected and people are safe and people feel safe, specifically kids.
Because we're seeing the same attacks on public education and using LGBTQ students as a pawn. It's disgusting.
Because of the way that districts work in Colorado Springs, I think that policies that are passed in one district tend to trickle into others. And so the potential repercussions of this policy could absolutely trickle into D20, D49, D2, other districts.
It is an idea that now staff members should not, or people in authority should not ask students their pronouns. Absolutely, that is something that other districts will probably pay attention to.
Jason Jorgensen, Vice President of D11 Board, gave us a written statement in response to our interview request. He states, "The positive outcomes will be that we have protected our students and staff from wading into complex and difficult topics to have with students in a classroom setting. We are protecting staff from having discussions that they may not be prepared to have, or conversations that parent guardians would strongly request that they do not have around the topic of gender, sexuality, and preferred pronouns."
There's a myth that teachers are just forcing students to disclose their pronouns, they're forcing students to choose a pronoun. Some people have said they're forcing students to assign them a pronoun. None of that is happening in our schools. What's happening is honest, one-on-one conversations where teachers are being supportive to their students.
I think that it will restrict what teachers can ask their students, so that's going to impact essentially their freedom of speech in the classroom, which is certainly regulated to some extent anyway. It's not going to allow that free flow of information and how they can support students and make for a very safe and welcoming and inclusive environment.
It's basically denying trans students the right to talk about pronouns and denying teachers the right to ask pronouns and make sure kids feel comfortable. It is not protecting the children, it is in fact suppressing them.
Policy is still sitting with the Board of Education due to the discussion. This is Arlo Kaminski reporting for KRAM.